Well, that was quite the wrestling match to get this thing out. The edge of the plate was kind of hung up. You can see the blackened iron marks from that aluminum iron that I fabricated to get this thing out safely. So it was scored and then wet and then heated. This is a look at the inside. I'll just very lightly sand that little bit of residue that's left, and we'll glue our new maple plate in. So there we go, 24 grams. Our new plate is 12 grams. Half the weight, twice as stiff, and quarter sawn maple. These are some of the tools I fabricated specifically for this job. Now, since we couldn't get the camera inside the guitar to show you while I was working, I'm going to take a few minutes to explain what I did, how I did it, and why I did it the way I did it. So the first thing was we needed to get that plate out, that big honkin' plywood plate. This is the saw. I fabricated this a few years ago, and that's how I reached in the sound hole and scored that first couple of layers of plywood so that we could soak this and heat it and get it off. It works great. I can reach right in there and do what I did. Okay, so the first thing I did was I soaked that terry cloth, put it on the UHMD, fed it into the guitar, and then flipped the guitar face down to let that water soak into the plate. Next step is I had my 1-inch thick aluminum iron that I set on the hot plate and heated up. You can see in the video, this allowed me to kind of reach in through the sound hole without touching the edge of the sound hole or any interior parts of the guitar, and then feed it up against that dampened bridge plate. This was fabricated out of 1-inch by 1.5-inch aluminum stock. Now when it came time to glue the plate in, this is what I use. So I have this sort of gasket, it's like foam and vinyl, and that went up against the maple plate. This is when I was gluing the maple plate in. The reason I use that gasket in this piece of Baltic birch plywood is because the back of the plate is tapered down to about 70 thou. The leading edge of the plate is 90 thou. This is dead flat. So this gasket sort of compressed and gave us nice even pressure as I tightened those union bolts through the 6th and 1st string holes. That pulled that up tight, and that's how we glued that plate in good and tight. For those that are following my channel, I'm sure you've seen me use this before. So it's simply a tongue depressor with 2-sided tape and strips of leather. So I can put sandpaper on there and sand without digging a hole with my finger. Now, I have these horsehide gloves that I use because when I go to take those unions off, they're like 450 degrees, so you don't want to do it with your bare fingers. And that's the thermometer that I use to check the temperature of the iron to get it up to the proper heat. In this case, I did actually drill and tap through the 90 thou thick maple plate, and I threaded it to match that brass insert that we threaded back into place. And that will remain in the guitar. If anyone is crazy enough to actually put this junk back in there, be my guest. It can be completely original and completely out of tune. This is 16 gauge galvanized that I have sharpened that bull nose, a very shallow taper here, and a little bit steeper taper on that top edge. That allows me to reach in through the sound hole, get in behind that hot plate, and gradually slip along there and loosen that glue joint. Then I follow up with this one, which is basically the same deal, just a little bit longer. It allows me a little bit more reach. And then finally this one allowed me to reach right over to that trouble spot where the plate was getting hung up on that hide glue that had gooped onto the edge of the X-brace. That was my first move. My second move. That was my third move. I wetted it and heated it 3 times to gently get that out without damaging the guitar. And there you have it, the secret tool stash.